There are games that you play once and forget about them after a short while. Then there are really good games that offer an experience that stay with you long after the credits roll. These are the games that you'll come back to from time to time, and a good New Game Plus experience is vital in making these revisits meaningful and fun. To that end, here are 15 games that offer the best New Game Plus experiences. BLOODBORNE. Alright, let's get the most obvious one out of the way first. From Software is one of the best when it comes to offering a great New Game Plus experience, so much so that many consider it to be the actual game. Once you defeat the final boss and unlock any of the available endings, you can start a New Game Plus, which retains your stats, weapons, and most items. And in turn, the enemies have more health, the bosses are more challenging, and shop prices are unfortunately higher. In short, a rerun across the game's desolate landscapes remains challenging for a second time, and is a perfect option for those who want to remain in the hunter's dream just a little while longer. NIER AUTOMATA. NIER AUTOMATA is an emotionally charged tale about the fight between androids and humans, and I challenge anyone to finish the game without getting teary-eyed from its melancholic ending. But that's not the true ending, and you can select the New Game Plus after saving your game, which will unlock oodles of additional content. You need to complete the updated campaign 2 more times by playing as 9S and 2A respectively to achieve the third and one of the final endings of the game. It's a rewarding experience both from a narrative and a gameplay perspective, since you get additional story beats and new enemies to fight with repeated playthroughs. Ghosts of Tsushima. Ghosts of Tsushima is an enthralling ride through the scenic beauty that is the island of Tsushima, and a second run through this gorgeous virtual space is one that's definitely worth the time spent. You carry over all of the key upgrades and gear from your first playthrough, and a new horse to go along with it. A new Ghost Flower merchant makes an appearance on the second playthrough as well, which sells new armor dies. Enemies are harder to take down in New Game Plus, but trudging through will help you in attaining some rare trophies and powerful charms that should prove useful in these fights. The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. By the time you get around to defeating Calamity Ganon on your first playthrough, Link would already have so many hearts and exquisite pieces of gear that would make this fight a cakewalk. For those wanting a more challenging experience out of the game, look no further than the Master Mode. This New Game Plus features enemies that hit harder and have more health, and more of these high-level enemies that will make an appearance in starting areas. There are even some entirely unique enemies to fight in this playthrough, all of which require a good grasp of the game's many systems. The Last of Us Part 2. The Last of Us Part 2 is a masterful work of art that expertly manages to tell a gripping and memorable story about the never-ending cycle of violence in this post-apocalyptic America. A second playthrough is essential for understanding the many intricacies of this layered plot, and the New Game Plus mode is the perfect way to go about this. Ellie retains all of her abilities and weapons from the beginning, and choosing a harder difficulty option for this run is best to balance out these advantages for a challenging experience. But you could also choose the lower difficulty options that will let you storm through enemy encounters with your upgraded weapons, and that's a blast too. God of War 2018. 2018's God of War features an immaculate combat system that's a joy to engage with, and the supporting loot and gear systems make it even more enjoyable. As such, a New Game Plus is the perfect way to utilize all of your collected gear as you make your way to the highest peak of these lands once again. While you can choose any difficulty option for the New Game Plus run, a harder option is recommended to keep the experience rewarding and challenging through and through. Dishonored 2. Like any great sequel to an excellent first game, Dishonored 2 provides more options than before to the player with its 2 protagonists, Corvo and Emily, who each have different sets of abilities. Once you beat the game, you can use the New Game Plus options to revisit older levels with all previously collected runes and bone charms. And any additional upgrades can be taken from any of the 2 characters' ability pools, which in turn opens up amazing gameplay opportunities for dedicated players. Resident Evil Village. Once players finish the game, they can restart the journey of Ethan Winters through this village of horrors once again, through the New Game Plus mode. Players retain any and all gears and upgrades earned over the course of the first playthrough, and they can also spend the challenge points received upon completion for even more powerful weapons that should prove beneficial in case of repeated playthroughs on higher difficulties. A second playthrough is also a good excuse to check off the remaining internal challenges of the game, which as previously mentioned can be cashed in for exciting rewards. Batman Arkham Knight. Much like the From Software Soul series, the Batman Arkham series also features compelling New Game Plus modes with each entry in the series. Batman Arkham Knight being the latest in line makes this entry the perfect candidate for this feature. And the New Game Plus mode removes counter icons from enemies. Players will have to rely on their instincts to parry attacks from enemies, which by the way hit harder than before and carry high level gear alongside it. As for changes specific to this entry, alternate versions of combat challenges are unlocked on a second playthrough. Borderlands 3 True Vault Hunter Mode. Like Batman Arkham, Borderlands is also prominently featured in New Game Plus in the form of its True Vault Hunter mode. Once players complete Borderlands 3 campaign, they can start the True Vault Hunter mode, which enables more chance of high level drops from enemies, and encounters with badass type enemies become more frequent, ensuring that the experience remains constantly challenging and rewarding through and through. Persona 5. While Persona 5's roughly 100-hour campaign is lengthy as it is, those wanting to dive into it once again have a great option in the form of New Game Plus. You retain all of your high-level equipment and skills, but the most interesting aspect of it is that you also retain all of your social stats. As fans might already know, having high stats early on will help in establishing better bonds with your confidants, which is one of the more enjoyable aspects of the game. Marvel Spider-Man. Marvel Spider-Man's New Game Plus mode isn't as feature-packed as many others on the list, but come on, it's Spider-Man we're talking about. Swinging around the sun-soaked cityscapes and running along skyscrapers never gets old. And so does fighting all these fantastic bosses that Insomniac Games created. A chance to do it all over again with high-level upgrades and gear? Yeah, I'll take that, please. Tales of Arise. Unlike prior games in the Tales series, Tales of Arise has a relatively streamlined New Game Plus system that duly rewards explorers and completionists. What items you can carry over to New Game Plus is determined by the number of artifacts you collected during your first playthrough, many of which are earned through opening secret chests and completing side quests. Since enemies in a repeat playthrough will deal markedly more damage than before, it's vital that you collect as many artifacts as possible the first time around. Yakuza 5. Much like previous Yakuza games, Yakuza 5 is chock full of varied and intentionally hilarious side content, and it's very unlikely that players will have seen and done everything that the game has to offer the first time around. As such, a second playthrough can prove to be a palate cleanser for completionists and the series fans alike, which is best done through the premium New Game mode. Kazuma retains all upgrades and gear, which should help players focus their efforts on content and achievements that they may have missed the first time around. Horizon Forbidden West. Horizon Forbidden West is a lengthy game by itself, but those wanting to collect everything that the game has to offer will have to undertake the journey once again. Upon completing the main quest, players can select the New Game Plus option from the game's hub area, which will restart the journey from the beginning while retaining all of their high-level equipment and gear. New legendary gear will now be available in the shop, so make a note of acquiring these gear pieces on your second run through the Forbidden West. So what game are you going through again right now? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're there, why don't you drop a like, subscribe, and let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below, because we at GamingBolt upload new videos every day.